The sky this week is a little calmer than the last. No eclipse, blazing moon, no single dramatic headline trying to steal the whole show. Instead, this is a week of transition. A week when darkness returns, when the moon steps out of the way, when a comet may briefly reward the patient, when Mercury hangs just above the sunrise, difficult but possible, when Venus waits in twilight with a hair-thin crescent moon, and above it all, the man-made sky stays busy too, with Artemis just home from the moon, cargo heading for the station, and more satellites quietly joining the traffic overhead. Good evening, my fellow night-side travelers. This is Sunny from Muse Media, coming to you from somewhere above the 45th parallel, where the stars are still willing to talk to anyone patient enough to listen. From April 12th through the 18th, we move from the last fading light of the waning moon toward the new moon on April 17th, because this is the kind of week when the sky gets better night by night. Early on, moonlight still lingers. By Friday, darkness resets. And by the weekend, the evening sky begins to rebuild itself with the barest crescent, bright Venus, and the first hint of a new lunar cycle. At the same time, April's bigger monthly sky story continues in the background. Comet C /2025 R3 is approaching its best mid-month visibility, and the Lyrids are waking up, though their peak is still a few nights away. Before we even get to the stars, a quick look at the things we've put up there. This week begins in the afterglow of Artemis II, which has just completed a history-making around-the-moon mission. On April 6, NASA's crew passed the farthest distance humans have ever traveled from Earth, surpassing the old Apollo 13 record. And by the time this week begins, Orion has just returned home, reminding us that lunar exploration is no longer a memory. It's happening again. And closer to home, Northrop Grumman's CRS-24 cargo mission is part of this week's orbital activity. NASA says astronauts aboard the station are scheduled to use Canadarm2 to capture the Cygnus XL on Monday, April 13th, before it is attached for unloading. So even in a week that feels visually subtle from the ground, space operations remain very active overhead. Public launch schedules also show Starlink opportunities clustered during the week, including around April 14, 15, and 18, which means some viewers may again catch a satellite train shortly after launch, depending on the time, weather, and your local light conditions. As always with launches, treat those dates as flexible until the rockets actually leave the ground. The Comet story this week is no longer maps. The better target now is Comet C 2025 R3 as the best chance this month to try for it, with the comet making its closest approach to Earth later on April 27th. It may not be an easy, naked eye target for most people, but with your binoculars or a telescope, and especially with the moon out of the way, this is the week to look. And that gives the week a wonderful little tension, because not every celestial object is bright enough to announce itself. Some things only show up for those who are already looking. Here's the lunar path for the week. We have April 12th, waning gibbous. April 17th, the new moon at 11:51 UTC, 7:52 a.m. EDT. April 18, a hair-thin waxing crescent returns to the evening sky. This is what makes the week so useful. The moon begins as a fading presence, and then it slips away. And once it does, everything else gets easier. Fainter stars, deeper sky, comet hunting, the earliest stirrings of the Lyrids by Friday night, and into Saturday, the darkness is back. And darkness for skywatchers is not emptiness. It is being given permission. Mercury is still your toughest but most rewarding dawn challenge. NASA says April 3rd was its greatest elongation, its best visibility of the year. And while that moment has just passed, it remains your best morning planet to try for this week. Very low in the east before sunrise. Mars is there too, but it's harder. Sky and Telescope's week ahead note describes the thin crescent moon pointing towards super difficult Mercury and Mars low in the dawn. In other words, possible, but only if your eastern horizon is flat, clean, and merciful. Venus is the easy one, brilliant, and low in the western twilight on April 18 or 19, depending on your location. The waxing crescent moon appears close to Venus, with the Pleiades glowing nearby as the sky darkens. That should be one of the prettiest unaided eyesights of the week. Jupiter is still an excellent evening target, high in the west after sunset, sitting in Gemini, and showing a disk around 39 arc seconds wide in early April. It's slowly shrinking as Earth holes farther ahead in our orbit, but it remains one of the best telescopic objects in the sky this week. The Lyrids, well, they're beginning to stir. They do not peak this week. NASA places the peak between April 21st and 22nd, but their activity window is opening, and that means you may begin catching the occasional early meteor in the late night and pre-dawn hours. The real advantage is timing. By the time the shower peaks, the moon will still be favorable, and this week is the threshold into the darker period. So this is not yet the week of meteor spectacle. It is the week of preparation, the week when the sky begins to set the table for you. On Sunday, Arcturus returns after dark look east. The Big Dipper stands high in the northeast, and if you follow the curve of its handle downward, you'll arrive at Arcturus, bright and warm-toned, making the constellation Bootes as it rises into prominence. It's one of spring's great transitions, the winter sky beginning to lose its grip while the spring constellations step on forward. On Monday, Cargo's at the station. This is a good night to remember that skywatching is not just ancient light, it's current and it's operational. So NASA says the CRS-24 Cygnus XL is scheduled to be captured by the station crew on April 13th. So while you're watching Jupiter or the first spring stars, somewhere overhead, a robotic arm may be reaching out to catch a cargo ship delivering supplies, experiments, and hardware to orbit. And if your skies are clear after sunset, Jupiter is still there in the west. Steady, it's bright, it's worth a telescope if you have one. Tuesday, it's a dawn challenge. This is the week's first real test. If you have an almost perfectly open eastern horizon, Tuesday into Wednesday dawn offers a difficult but worthwhile challenge for you. The waning crescent moon hanging low, with Mercury below it and Mars very nearby, both fighting the brightening sky. NASA says Mercury remains the morning planet to try, while Sky and Telescope warns that Mars is likely to be extremely difficult for many observers. Binoculars will help, but do not be surprised if the moon is the only thing you catch. Wednesday, the sky is rebalancing itself. By midweek, the moon is nearly gone and the sky begins to feel wider. This is a good evening to notice the seasonal handoff. Arcturus climbing in the east, the deeper spring constellations beginning to organize themselves, and the western sky slowly simplifying as winter's old anchors sink lower. Nothing shouts, but almost everything shifts. Thursday, waiting for the dark. We're just waiting for the dark here. Thursday is a threshold night. The moon is nearly out of the picture. The Lyrids are beginning their long approach to peak. You have Comet C 2025R3 still out there moving toward its best mid-month visibility, and the week is setting up what might be its best observing run. This is the night when it starts to feel as though the sky is holding something back for the weekend. Friday is new moon. New moon arrives Friday morning at 7:52 a.m. EDT, and that makes Friday night one of the best observing windows of the week. If you have dark skies with optical aids, this is also the date NASA specifically highlights as the best chance to look for Comet C 2025R3. And even if you decide to skip the comet, this is the kind of night skywatchers wait for. No moon, less glare, and way more depth. The kind of night when the sky stops feeling decorative and it starts feeling inhabited. On Saturday, you have moon, Venus, and Earth shine Saturday Saturday evening is the beauty shot. Just after sunset, you've still got that hair-thin crescent moon appearing close to Venus in the western twilight. As the sky darkens, the Pleiades begins to show themselves above. Time and date describes the pairing as visible on April 18 or 19, depending on the location, and this is one of those rare sky scenes that works for both beginners as well as experienced observers. And if you have a good pair of binoculars, you may even catch the earth shine, the soft, ghostly glow on the moon's dark side, one of the loveliest and exciting sights in amateur astronomy. So recapping, your best viewing nights will be April 17 through 18. And why? Because new moon on the 17th, darkest skies of the week, the best shot of Comet C 2025 R3, excellent conditions for deep observing, and then on the 18th, the return of a delicate crescent moon beside Venus. This week does not arrive like a fireworks show. It arrives like a door opening, welcoming. The moon steps away, darkness returns, a comet waits low in the sky, Mercury risks a brief appearance at dawn, Venus meets the thinnest of crescents, Lyrids begin to wake, Artemis has just come home, cargo is on the way to the station, and somewhere above all of that, satellites continue to slip into orbit, quietly rearranging the human sky, maybe forever. So maybe this is not a week of spectacle, maybe it is a week of readiness, a week that rewards patience, that asks you to notice small things before they become larger ones, and maybe that is the point, because the sky does not always reveal itself through shock. Sometimes it reveals itself through innovation. Follow the signals, question the noise, and I'll see you again on the night side.